I never believed in the paranormal until I spent a night in Willowbrook Asylum. Urban exploration was my hobby, nothing more. Old buildings, peeling paint, forgotten histories. I'd explored dozens of abandoned places without incident. Willowbrook was supposed to be just another location on my list. The asylum closed in 1987 after numerous patient abuse scandals. It sat empty for 36 years, slowly rotting on the outskirts of town. The chain-link fence had more holes than metal. I slipped through just after sunset, camera in hand. The main building loomed against the darkening sky, 6 stories of crumbling brick and shattered windows. I'd read that over 3,000 patients had lived here at its peak. Now it was just shadows and silence. I pushed through the front entrance. The doors hung crooked on rusted hinges. Inside, the reception area was a mess of overturned furniture and scattered papers. My flashlight beam cut through decades of dust. I started on the first floor, photographing the day room where patients once gathered. Faded murals of flowers covered one wall. Someone had scratched words into the paint. "Help us!" The letters were deep, carved with desperate fingers. The therapy rooms were worse. Leather restraints still hung from gurneys. Cabinets stood open, revealing rows of empty medication bottles. I tried not to think about what had happened in these rooms. On the second floor, I found the dormitories. Rows of rusted bed frames stretched into darkness. Someone had arranged teddy bears on one bed, their button eyes catching my flashlight. I didn't remember reading about that online. That's when I heard it. A soft scraping sound from somewhere above, probably just rats or the wind. I kept moving. The third floor held the medical wing. Surgical equipment lay scattered across the floor. An operating table dominated the center room, its surface stained dark. I took my photos quickly and moved on. Floor 4 was administrative offices. File cabinets had been pried open, their contents scattered. Patient records mixed with staff memos and incident reports. I picked up one file at random. A 9-year-old boy admitted for behavioral problems. He died here 6 months later. Cause of death: accident. I checked the time. 10 p.m. I'd been inside for 2 hours. The top floors beckoned, but something felt wrong. The air had grown colder, heavier. The 5th floor housed isolation rooms. Heavy metal doors with small observation windows lined both sides of the corridor. Most stood open, revealing tiny cells with padded walls. One door was closed. I approached slowly. Through the observation window, I saw nothing but darkness. I reached for the handle. The door was warm. Not just warm, hot. I jerked my hand back. Behind me, something crashed. I spun around, heart pounding. A ceiling tile had fallen. I decided to skip the 6th floor and head to the basement instead. That's where they kept the morgue and the hydrotherapy rooms. The really interesting stuff. The basement stairs descended into absolute darkness. My flashlight seemed weaker down here, its beam barely penetrating the gloom. The temperature dropped with each step. The hallway branched in 3 directions. I chose left, following signs toward the medical records room. If I was lucky, I'd find something interesting for my blog. The records room door was ajar. Inside, metal shelves reached from floor to ceiling, packed with moldering files. I started browsing, looking for unusual cases. That's when I found the logbook. It sat on a desk, newer than everything else. The leather cover was pristine, unmarked by time. I opened it. The pages were filled with patient admissions, handwritten in blue ink. Names, dates, reasons for commitment. I flipped through decades of entries, watching the dates progress. 1952, 1963, 1975, 1984. The last entry made my blood freeze. My full name, today's date, admission time, 10:47 p.m. I checked my watch. It was 10:46. Footsteps echoed from the stairs, slow, deliberate, coming down. I backed away from the desk, my flashlight shaking. The footsteps grew louder. Multiple sets now. The door to the records room swung shut with a bang. I tried the handle. Locked. I threw my shoulder against it. The door didn't budge. "Welcome back." The voice came from behind me. I spun around. A figure stood in the corner where my light hadn't reached. A woman in a nurse's uniform from the 1950s, her face pale and expressionless. "I haven't been here before," I said, my voice cracking. She smiled, revealing blackened teeth. That's what you said last time, and the time before, and the time before that. More figures emerged from the shadows, patients in hospital gowns, doctors in white coats, all of them watching me with dead eyes. The nurse held up a photograph. It showed this same room, but in the photo I stood among the shelves, wearing a patient gown. My hair was longer, my face gaunt. When was this taken? You've been coming back for 36 years, she said. Every night, always forgetting, always remembering. This is where you belong. I looked down. My clothes were changing, fading into a hospital gown. My camera was gone. Had I ever had a camera? The logbook lay open on the desk. I stumbled toward it, reading my entry again. Reason for admission: dissociative fugue state, violent delusions, danger to self and others. No, that wasn't real. I was an urban explorer. I had a life outside these walls. Didn't I? The nurse was at my shoulder now, her cold hand on my arm. It's time for your medication. You've been off your schedule all day. I tried to remember my apartment, my job, my family. The memories slipped away like water through my fingers. Had I driven here? How did I get here? The asylum closed in 1987, I said desperately. Everyone left. Everyone except you, the nurse whispered. You couldn't leave. You wouldn't leave. So you pretend. Every night you pretend you're someone else. Someone who chose to come here. It's easier than remembering the truth. I felt myself surrendering, sinking into the familiar routine. The nurse guided me toward the door, which now stood open. The others followed, a silent procession through dark hallways. We climbed the stairs to the 5th floor, to the isolation rooms, to the one door that had been closed. My door. The nurse opened it. Inside was a small room with a bed and a single window. Photographs covered the walls, hundreds of them. All of me, in this asylum, taken over decades. Different cameras, different clothes, always the same confused expression. I stepped inside. The door closed behind me. Through the observation window, I could see the nurse making a note on her clipboard. I lay down on the bed and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow night, I would wake up outside. I would remember being an urban explorer. I would see the asylum and decide to investigate. I would find the logbook. I would come home. The asylum never closed. Not really. Not for those of us who still live here. We just keep forgetting, keep pretending, keep coming back. And somewhere in my pocket, no, I didn't have pockets anymore. Somewhere in the world outside, my camera captures nothing but static. Has it always? I closed my eyes and waited for tomorrow. For the forgetting. For the next time I would discover Willowbrook Asylum and decide all on my own to go inside. The nurse was right.